What's going on, everyone, and welcome to Movie Emporium's Ending Explains of Bliss, the newest Amazon original movie that's directed by Cahill. Now, before we begin, hey, if you like this channel, awesome, hit the subscribe button and join Movie Emporium. Hit that notification bell at the top to find out what's coming next. If you like this video, awesome, hit that like button, as well as comment below on any video to watch, including this one. So this movie is a very fascinating one, and I'm going to do a spoiler-filled review, so if you have not seen my review, go to my non-spoiler review, which I'll post. And so this movie, which is a movie that deals with computer simulations and stuff like that, is not, to me personally, a movie about computer simulations. It's a movie about mental health issues. And the reason I say that is when you look at somebody who truly, there's a point in a glitch in the Matrix where the guy talks about how the Matrix really formed his reality and it started making him kind of lucid, and he killed his parents. Well, when you have somebody that has mental health issues, and when somebody is having problems where they are being they're delusional, things start to warp in their reality. And one of the big kind of takeaways, or one of the kind of set off moments, is Emily, who's his daughter, she talks to him as he's in the other reality, which is what he thinks is real. And she's telling him about how she asked him that when she was younger, she asked her father to tuck her in nicely and not, mess up her braids, but he thinks it's brains, and therefore is something kind of off about who he is and what he is. And then it leads into the fact that, he's taking these crystals called Bliss. And Bliss is probably a reality in this movie or in this world, for the simple fact that it's a drug that gets people high, similar to Inception, and it takes them to different realities, to different worlds. The character played by Salma Hayek, who plays Isabel, is very much an addict in this movie, and that's another form. It's about mental illness and addicts, being an addict, a drug addict. And the movie tries to play that around by using these crystals, these drug pieces, by the simple fact that when they take the drugs, they actually go into a lucid state or a dreamlike state, which a lot of drugs will do, like heroin or acid or marijuana. In a lot of aspects, it makes you very, very lucid in its respects. But and once you see this movie and you go back and think about it, from the very beginning of this movie, I'm pretty sure the character of Greg is in a lucid state. He's in a drug-addled world where the things that are happening to him are not necessarily the reality prone nature of what he's used to. For instance, he gets a divorce, in the same week that he gets fired. His daughter's getting ready to graduate, and maybe that's reality as we know it until he meets Isabel. But the fact that it's happening in the same week seems a little far-fetched, in the simple fact that, could it happen? Absolutely. Is it reasonable? Not really, for the simple fact of he gets a divorce and all of a sudden he's very despondent in the same week that he loses his job. If he lost his job, like they say in the movie, this would have taken weeks and months, maybe years of everything that going kind of wayside and so on and so forth. And it just shows you his kind of mental state. And then when he meets, like I said, when he meets Isabel, it almost seems like they've known each other for quite some time, or she has kind of listened to him when she was panhandling or doing what she did at his job. And the fact that she knows him, the fact that she kind of falls in love with him, everything is very kind of almost like a very lucid dream that he is going through. And then it leads into the fact that he kills his boss, and he sees his boss fall out the window and commit suicide, which ends up not being real. And the phone calls and the fact that the company's called Technical Services or Technical Difficulties or whatever, it's a very kind of I would say Vanilla Sky meets the Matrix, and its kind of lucidity of what it's trying to do. But it leads into the nature of what ends up becoming the main part of the story, which is Isabel convinces Greg that he is in a computer simulated reality, that there are all these people are simulations, and he and her and a few other people are actually human beings. And she's like, your daughter's a simulation. And he basically, if I read this properly, and I hope I do, he is in essence using these drugs to simulate his world, to simulate his reality. He's been convinced by this woman who he may love. I mean, I don't know, maybe she changes his world. And as you're watching the movie play along, you're seeing a guy completely fall apart. His mental state goes, the fact that he's able to crush a car, the fact that he's able to, in the roller rink, knock people over. the fact that he goes outside the roller rink and he sees himself in the police car shows the state of his mentality, his mental ability. The fact that his clothes change, his demeanor changes, the look of him changes, his hair changes, everything about him changes to the point where you see that he's a homeless drug addict. And, you know, you could also look at it as being a computer simulation reality that, you know, she's right and he's wrong. But it's really just, in essence, him, in my personal opinion, him as a drug addict, and it just kind of follows that formula in that line when they have to make a choice, or, you know, that she's killed her drug person that gives her drugs. The police are after him, and she makes a choice. She's like, we can go back, because I'll talk about it in a second, we can go back into the reality that we believe in. He convinces himself to stay in this reality if computer simulation is real, but otherwise he convinces himself to, you know, to help himself mentally. And she takes the drugs, or takes what she considers the way to get back into the actual reality. And that's the last time we see her. We don't see her ever again. We don't see what happens to her. We don't see if the police kill her. So it's left open on what's actually happening. But I think his mental state and the fact that what these drugs are doing to him has finally reached him, because he goes to an AA meeting at the very end and he holds up a picture of his daughter and he's like, she tells me she's my daughter, and I believe her, which could lead into a simple fact that he's just willing to accept that he took the blue pill, or I think it's the blue pill, or that Neo didn't take in the Matrix, and kind of wants to live in this reality, or he's kind of accept the fact that he needs help and he wants to see his daughter and he wants to get himself clean. And at the very end, he goes to the AA meeting, and then during the mid-credit scene, he approaches his daughter with some flowers, and, you know, they reconcile, you know, all the issues. But you also see his daughter, which, if this was a simulated reality, you would not see his daughter and his son talk to one another. And she is constantly looking for him, and she approaches him down in the slums, the area where all the homeless people live. And it gets to a point where, I'll get to in a second, but there's a point where she kind of starts convincing him that maybe what he's doing is affecting his mentality, is affecting his ability to be discerning of what's real and what's not. And that's where the kind of Matrix style universe, or the existence, or Pi, or Vanilla Sky comes into effect. But that leads into the idea of the drugs. Apparently the drugs are very similar in nature, of the essence of, you take this orange crystal and it makes you like superhuman with superhuman abilities. It's like what drug-addled users would believe, that they're able to be superhuman, because there have been instances where drug users have been able to gain superhuman strength. And what is really happening and how it's happening is a little confusing, to be fairly honest. For instance, when he's down in the alleyway and his daughter approaches him, she talks to him. The Isabel character is kind of in a hurry to get him down there, because I think she wants to give him more drugs to keep him, you know, with her. And he gets basically stalked, or not stalked, but he gets approached by this homeless guy that sells drugs. And later on, the guy's in the van with a gun, and he's able to crush the van with only his mind powers and manipulation, kind of like Magneto. And it's a little confusing on whether he was able to get away from the guy, whether the guy was real, what was truly happening. And that's the other thing, is a lot of these characters in the story, are they real? Are they truly happening? What is going on? There's a point where, you know, they're back at the bar, Isabella and Greg actually sees his alive boss, and that's where the mentality issue comes in, the mental situation. And you find out that he was fired a long time ago, and of course her graduation was like 2 weeks ago. So like, once again, it's a mental issue, which I think was not only brought on by drugs, but was brought on by maybe he's just not well and he needs help. But it also leads into these other crystals, which I think are blue crystals or something like that, which they inject into this, I'll show a picture of it, but they inject into this little cartridge, and you put it up the nose, and supposedly it's a way for them to get out of the simulation into the real world. And when the Greg character injects into his nose, he wakes up in this kind of existence style reality where he's hooked up to this brain machine, which is literally a bunch of brains in a machine. He has this thing up his nose, which is attached like these like weird kind of worm wires. And everything about this world just seems off. I mean, the entire movie, as I said, seems off, but this especially this moment, because the effects that J.J. Abrams uses, the like glare effects or whatever it is used a lot in this segment. It's very similar to like The Island, where these individuals seem like they're not in the world that they are presented. So basically he wakes up, he's a very prominent doctor, he's created this like thinking board, which is really a really cool effect. It gives him the ability to ask questions, or to visualize what he's thinking. And he's married to, or at least he's dating, the Salma Hayek Isabel character. And it's like a beautiful setting. I think it was filmed in Croatia or something like that, but it's very gorgeous. It's very opulent. It's very high class. You know, it's a very gorgeous area. We are, you know, he is very well liked. He's very well respected. She has created this brain machine, which she's going to show off to the people and her scientific, you know, society and stuff like that. But you can see that she has a very uneasy nature about this whole world. The Gray character seems at ease and happy, like he's in a drug addled state. But at some point, as this story plays along, she's like, we need to get back to the brain machine. We need to get back to, you know, the simulation. He's like, what's your hurry? Why are you in a rush? And she's like, I need to have my work done. Which means, similar to something like Vanilla Sky, there are people trying, or actually Total Recall in a lot of respects, where she's trying to get him to go back into the actual reality world, that this drug-addled trip that they're on is fully starting to fall apart, because, you know, she talks about how each person needs 10 of these crystals to go into this whatever reality it is, and he convinces her to stay, like he's convincing, almost like an Inception, you know, to kind of stay and live and so on and so forth. But things start to happen where throughout the kind of drug addled sequence, as I recall it, there's a point where they see holographic people, and these holographic people are kind of like, you know, if you sit in your room and you have a display monitor, or, you know, some of that nature, or you're watching, you know, the Avengers movies, especially Avengers Endgame, and you have people you can talk to. It's that similar nature where maybe they're wearing an AR helmet or something like that. But something kind of interesting starts to happen where his daughter Emily starts to kind of appear in this like dream state world or reality world, and he sees her and he starts to get uncomfortable about the situation. And then that's when Bill Nye, the science guy, pops up. Bill Nye as an actor, and he's like trying to convince Owen Wilson's character, kind of like that guy in Total Recall, that something is very, very wrong about this world. And he's also been shown in I don't know, at this point, I don't know if you can call it the actual real world or the drug addled world, whatever you want to call it, as a protester, as somebody protesting whatever he's protesting. And he pops up here, and all of a sudden the two realities start colliding with one another. We see the Bill Nye's character with all the protesters. We see the kind of homeless shelter world, and we see Emily and the Owen Wilson character talking like he's actually somewhat lucid, and he's able to talk to his daughter, and that's when they have the whole conversation. And I think Emily is the anchor point of him coming back to reality and him eventually coming clean. But that's kind of how the movie plays out, is we have two characters that are very much drug addicts, and they use their escape as places being a computer simulated world, and the world is falling apart upon them. And, you know, of course, Owen Wilson's great character is falling apart, and even Isabel's falling apart. It's really fascinating. You know, there are early scenes, for instance, when the wallet kind of shifts, like it's a glitch, where it almost feels like you're going to see a computer simulated world. And even the trailer kind of has that feeling. But I think to kind of close it out, I think if you really look at the world that's being presented, I think you're looking at a man who's very mentally unstable, who's very mentally depressed, has very, very bad mental issues. And the Isabel character is prying upon those issues, and they're using drugs to kind of distort the reality. And that's why you see the weird kind of computer simulated effects and stuff like that. So, but yeah, it's a movie that was a lot more deep than I was expecting. I was not expecting to have to do an Ending Explains video for this movie, because I expected it just to be a cool sci-fi thriller. But I think what the director is doing, I think what the story and the script that he wrote is trying to do, is present a story that is being much more representative of a serious problem than it is a sci-fi story. But what makes sci-fi really interesting is you can tell a story about mental instability and make it really kind of unique and interesting. You know, you look at Owen Wilson's other film that he did, which was a sci-fi film, which was Midnight in Paris. It's about time travel, and just the kind of ideas that Owen Wilson is doing as an actor when it comes to these kind of scripts is really, really fascinating. The problem with the movie is I just felt the ending was a little too kind of haphazardly done, a little too convenient. I did see the whole him and his mental problems coming pretty early. And when he goes to AA, I just felt like, you know, you kind of deflated the whole purpose of the movie, but maybe it needed to be done. I don't know. Maybe I'm completely wrong on that subject, but I think overall, I think the movie's still fascinating. I think it's still fun. I still think it has a lot to say, and it's a lot deeper than I was expecting any movie like this to be. So it's, like I said in my non-spoiler review, definitely give it a check because you might really enjoy it. I really did. Just know that it's not necessarily about computer simulated programs, which I thought it was going to be about. It's more, to me personally, about mental health issues. So, but that's it. That's gonna be my ending explained spoiler-filled review of Bliss. Thank you so much for watching. In the comments below, tell me what you feel this movie is about. Do you agree with me that you feel it's about mental illness? Do you have other differing opinions? You know, be nice about it. You know, like I said, my opinion might differ from yours. You might have different observations. It's what makes movies so great. But anyways, let me know in the comments below. But if you like what you see on this channel, hit the subscribe button to join Movie Emporium. Hit that notification bell at the top to find out what's coming next. If you liked the video, awesome. Hit that like button. And of course, we'll see you guys on the next Ending Explains. Peace out.